right, so this is the very first card that we're going to make for this class. We've already got our background done. I've cut it down to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches to fit on the card base. And then we're going to use these Impresslits to cut out some leaves. I've got 2 different styles here. I'm going to do it out of the piece or the background that we did all of the colors on. And then I'm just going to choose which leaves that I want to use based on how they turn out. So Impresslits are like an embossing folder as well as a die in one. So I'm going to need to mist the paper before I die cut it, and then I'm going to, once it's done die cutting, I need to let it dry. I need to let the paper sorry. Once it's done die cutting, I need to let the paper dry completely before assembling the card. So I'm going to put my background embossed piece onto my card. And I put glue over the whole thing, and because of the texture, what I like to do, once I've got it centered how I like to put an acrylic block on it and then a weight on it just to hold it down. Otherwise I have to physically hold it. I'm going to put the card out of the way and grab my die cutting machine. So just like the 3D embossing folders, I need only 1 acrylic plate, and I need my platform, the top tab, open. So I'm going to put my pieces of, or my embossing folders, right in my machine. I'm going to lightly mist both sides of the cardstock. Now this will re-mist the magicals on here, but it's not going to move them around a lot because I'm not putting a lot of water on there. I'll put a little bit more on the back, and then I want to put the color side down facing the die part of the embossing folder. A little bit trickier using 2 at one time, and if you're more comfortable with it, you can cut the piece of cardstock in half and then do it. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that because it's not liking this. So I'm just gonna leave the paper in there for a moment just to let me know where to cut it. Now Impresslits have actually been discontinued by Sizzix, but at the time of this recording you can still find them in stores and on, oh, it's just not wanting to. I still have my other plate in here, that's why. Sometimes they're so clear that you just forget that they're there. Much better. So if you ever have that with your machine, that it's just not working, there's clearly something wrong, and even if you've been using one for years like I have, it's still possible to have issues. So I like to tap them, and often they will come out. If they don't, you can use a little die pick to help get it out. Because the card, or because the paper was misted, it'll be flexible. Look how pretty those are. Move this one to the side. Make sure the die in here is completely covered. Oh, those ones both came out at the same time. So I love these because not only do they die cut the leaf, but they impress the texture right into there. So I'm going to let those completely dry. The other thing we're going to use for this card is this thanks die. And this particular die has a shadow with it as well. I could have cut the 2 pieces apart, but I like to cut both at the same time. And then I just mix and match my sentiment. So I'm going to do the red one first. And this lower, or the smaller one stayed in the die, or sorry, stayed in the paper. Sometimes words are hard. All right, I'm gonna put that to the side. And then I'm gonna die cut my green one. And these backgrounds are big enough that you can get 2 of each out of it. Go get the machine out of the way. So for this card, I'm going to use the shadow out of the red and the words, or the smaller area or whatever, out of the green, the sentiment. So these are all fall cards. And for me, thankful or grateful or whatever would be perfect for them, but I don't have a die or a stamp that says that, so we changed it to thanks. But really you can use whatever sentiment you want on them. And obviously these techniques will work for cards that are not fall either. I typically like using my Distress Collage medium for this, just because if any oozes out, it's nice and clear and it's matte. But I just tried it a moment ago and it seems to be clogged. It's a brand new bottle, so I will fix it off camera and then use it for the rest of the class. But it is my preferred glue for this because I don't like to see the shine of glue that has seeped out. But there we go. I'm going to tuck that aside and then let my leaves dry, and I'll see you when they are completely dry and we'll complete the card. All right, my background is glued down and my leaves are dry. And I think I'm going to use the oak leaves just like I did for my sample. I really like how these ones turned out, but I like how this has more of a contrast to the background. And I've gotten my glue working. So it really only took about, I want to say, 15 minutes or so for that glue to dry. The water to dry that I misted on my paper before putting it through my die cutting machine. So it doesn't take that long because I just wanted enough moisture on there for it to be malleable and push into all of the detail of that Impresslit. And I see that I have not taken the center of my K and S out. Definitely want to do that before it gets glued down. All right. And then just a simple thanks. And because those are cut out from the same backgrounds we made with the magicals, they match perfectly. The red's a little bit brighter, but that's because these ones blended in with some of the other colors, changing the color a little bit. But a very simple but very textured thank you card.